Now, given that we have creators out there like Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and Tony Gilroy really carrying all the weight on their backs to really course correct the Star Wars franchise with Ahsoka, Mando Season 4, Andor Season 2, and a lot more that will be announced, by the way, at D23 this year, as well as throughout the various earning calls throughout 2024. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support, and let's get right into exactly what's going on with Favreau and what he had to admit to about and everything revolving around Star Wars as a whole, and why this concerns the fandom. Now, we know that Favreau is a guy that is a great world builder. Some fans would debate on whether or not he's a great writer. Others would say that Dave Filoni is the better writer when it comes to Star Wars material. We do know that he did the Luke episode in the Book of Boba Fett, the Ahsoka episode in Mando Season 2, and stuff around those lines. So that's all Dave Filoni, if you guys liked that stuff. But looking at everything between Favreau and Filoni, alright, as I like to call it, the Favloni universe, everything that they are creating, is really all resting on the Ahsoka series. That's really going to make or break Star Wars. A lot of fans are just leaning on that show, whether or not Star Wars has a valid future or not. So moving toward the next thing about all of this. What's interesting about Favreau is what he had to say about something that has been very concerning and very much bothering him as a creator and as a fan as well, and this does involve Kathleen Kennedy at no surprise. So with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni preparing to promote the Ahsoka series by this July, heavily as though, of course, they have a big effort to course correct the franchise, recently Jon Favreau had something crucial to share with the world by stating the following. So, where we ended off in Mando Season 3, I think the fans deserved one form of an explanation about some important things. We did have a big plan for Boba Fett's return in Season 3. However, we ran into creative issues with Kathy and many of the directors attached to the third one. So we said, okay, let's move on with a Book of Boba Fett Season 2 to really give the fans the hardcore, deadly version of Boba Fett that Morrison was also pressuring and begging us to do as creators. Unfortunately, we had to completely scrap Season 2 altogether because we found that our feedback for Season 1 was so poor that those high up at Disney insisted that a Season 2 wouldn't be worth investing into, and that they wanted to cut loose from Morrison's role of playing the Book of Boba further, and for a very long time, if not forever. Now let me stop here for a second. Now, basically what Jon Favreau is saying, and the best way to translate this, is that the damage is so bad to Boba Fett's image that a lot of fans would still have this disinterest in the character and would only remember how he was presented in the Book of Boba Fett. Now, this is where I think the mistake comes from the Disney higher-ups of how they don't want to invest into a show like that would reinvent Boba Fett, is that I think, if anything, it's in reverse. If you do something so unique and so well done, you're gonna forget about the flawed version that came before it. I don't understand that logic. I guess they're being very careful with what's being released onwards, and that's why they are strictly really trying to focus on good material. But look, then again, they're focusing on a Rey movie that nobody cares about, so the answer to all of that is, why is Star Wars so inconsistent? Well, you do, as shockingly unbelievable as it is, there are executives that are loyal to Kathleen Kennedy and those that are also loyal to George, John, and Dave's efforts to course correct Star Wars. And that's why you have these different groups of executives and the board as well that want to either A, invest in something, or B, not invest in something. And so that's why you have a lot of back and forth scenarios. And we gotta all remember that the CEO doesn't always run the entire show. It's not all always up to Bob Iger, you know? I mean, look, he can get fired any day now. And that's what's most likely going to happen after what happened with Elemental, with what happened with Indy 5 so far, and everything that has been going on with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the closure, I should say, of the Galactic Star Cruiser experience in, you know, of course, the Galaxy's Edge. So that also failed on their end. And it's really not looking good for them. Now, moving to the next thing, he goes on to elaborate further. Though we are seriously trying to bring him back into Season 4 as Boba Fett, Disney feels it's best to leave that be for years, if not forever. Of course, there are other ways we could bring him back, since there are many clones to discover, since they all hold a similar appearance. So we have looked into that endlessly, and we do have some surprises on the way. But the Boba Fett as fans knew him from Legends, sadly on our end, looks like it's just not going to work from an investing standpoint for Disney and for us as creators, and Tamora Morrison really had a tough time accepting that news. But we are still fighting to make that happen again somehow in the distant future. We want to get back there again. Our original idea for Season 2 was to feature multiple bounty hunters led by Boba, going on missions throughout the galaxy and splitting up, but this was all scrapped. Now, look, I think I know what Favreau is talking about, because we've heard a lot of rumblings that Captain Rex is going to be in the Ahsoka series, and so I think that's what he's pertaining to about all these surprises on the horizon of how Morrison can and continue to play roles similar, appearance-wise, I guess you could say, to Boba Fett, but maybe not in spirit. It's really just disheartening to hear that we could have gotten so much more with the Book of Boba Fett as a show if they just did things the right way right from the get-go. And look, this is always happening with Disney. I mean, they've realized that they've made so many mistakes, they don't want to reinvest in something that's going to fail again to make themselves look really bad. You know, this is like them making another Galactic Star Cruiser hotel experience. That's not going to happen. Not in a million years. There have been rumblings, however, that once they bulldoze that within a year, they want to build up just a regular Star Wars themed hotel, like any other themed hotel in Las Vegas that you go into. They want to make it simply, you know, very much just like that. Not an experience, but an actual hotel. So, what's interesting about this too is that Favreau is going over how Mando Season 3, they ran into so many creative roadblocks to bring back Boba Fett that really never happened, and how it was on the table, but Kathleen Kennedy insisted that they get rid of that pitch and that treatment, and so Morrison really had a very tough time accepting this, and I don't blame him, because, look, he even complained about the Book of Boba Fett, where Din Djarin came in and stole the show, and how Luke came in and stole the show. Even Grogu stole the show from his series. And yeah, I mean, I can see that from an actor's point of view, where, you know, you got this show, you're playing the character for the first time in a very long time, you know, even though he was making a cameo here and there in Mando Season 2, but he really had this opportunity to shine, and they just really watered down the character, like they watered down Kenobi, like how they watered down Luke. It's no different than any of them. And so that's just Disney in nature, and they have to change. And I'm sure Jon and Dave realize that now. That's why they are so careful with what they say about Ahsoka, with what they are promoting with the series. They don't want to oversell it. They don't want to over-promote it either, kind of like how they did. So they want to make sure that this is going to be very well received, that sparks new interest and sparks new momentum. So guys, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.